on Twitter, LinkedIn, and and your blog now.
I have about 147,000 followers. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think the first question is like, how did you achieve that from someone?
Hard work.
Yeah, exactly. But how did that journey? How long did that? Across what time period did that happen?
So I've been on Twitter for 7 years, and I've just worked it day and night for the last 7 years. So usually, I've actually written a blog post about what my daily routine is, which is on Medium and it's also on LinkedIn, which usually involves getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and starting to post, and then going to bed at night and posting for the Far East in America. But for me, and so I've got. I need to mention I've got a book out.
So I was going to mention.
So you can get my book. It's on pre-order on Amazon. It's called Social Selling, Influencing Buyers and Change Makers. And really, the book came about through people asking me, so how do you get 147,000 followers? And really, it's an accumulation of that and a number of things that I believe in very passionately. And one of those is that I actually think that to build that sort of thing, part of it is about influence. It's also about building community. And some people are talking about tribes, some people are talking about, have other terms for it, but for me it's about community. And one of the big things for me about community is that you do things for your followers that it's not just about putting out the content, it's also about sharing things. So for example, I had a conversation earlier this evening, which is a classic thing for me about community, which is somebody came to me and they said, I'm thinking of writing a book, really passionate about a subject. And I said, well, yeah, no problem. I'll introduce you to my publisher. I mean, it was very obvious from having that conversation that they've got some content, and I'm basically going to make no financial gain from it. And it's a case of saying, here's an introduction, and then back away. And the fact that you're actually doing something, and that's a key thing for me about community, is that you're willing to actually hand off and provide. And I have some amazing people within my followers who've followed me for a long time, and we have conversations, and they come and they go and they come back, and some people have been with me for a long time. But we kind of feel that the whole thing goes together. It's very difficult to describe without community. It isn't just about sort of a hippie sort of thing. The way that I'm a salesperson. I'm not a marketeer. And one of the first brainstorming session that Matt and I had when we sat down to write the book, I'd been to a meeting in the morning, and a sales leader had basically leant over the desk and said to me, "This social selling, Tim, is all very interesting, but where's the king leads?" and I was explaining this to Matt, and he said, "This is kind of what our byword is, or our by phrase is for the book." And whenever we would brainstorm a chapter, we went through the process of chalking it all out and then working what we were going to, and then the story that we were going to take the reader through. And we would look at it, and if it was too sort of like fluffy, we would immediately go, so where's the king leads? And we would then make it more salesy. So the whole point of when I talk about community and I talk about influence and how you can create your own community and create your own influence, it also means that you can take it and be fluffy in marketing, but there's also a thing, kind of what you're doing here, which is creating a community. And there is a thing where you can actually use community and influence to actually sell things to generate revenue. And for me as a salesperson, that's what I want, is to actually sell something to generate revenue.
Sure, yeah, it really struck me that Tim dedicates a lot of hard work at the beginning and the end of the day to social influencing online, but it's also the content that you write and your followers that trust your content.
Yes.
You don't post anything. A lot of people share whatever content that they come across that seems to be trending content of the day, but you actually do spend that time, an hour at the beginning of the day and an hour at the end of the day,
yes,
you say, to actually curate that content and push out trusted content.
Yeah,
so
yeah. I mean,
really
if you post something that, if I post something like the 10 best places in Europe to buy chocolate, that will get engagement. It's kind of like a Daily Mail type of tweet. But there's things that I've just put a blog out, which was following up from the Forrester research, where they say that 20% of salespeople are going to be made redundant or replaced by 2020, and they're going to be replaced by Google and that, because people don't need to talk to salespeople.
What do you think the relevance has for all of these disciplines that are kind of converging and thinking about social selling but aren't actual salespeople in a way to speak?
Well, there's it's digital and it's social, and it's one thing really. I mean, I talk about in the book about how all of those things need to merge into one, and sales and marketing should be working together. We shouldn't be throwing rocks at each other over the office. We need to have a common language and understand and work together. I think that salespeople should be writing their own content. It's usually that point if there's any salesmen in here, they usually start throwing things at me because they don't want to do that. But we have to move people on, and the world has changed, and we have to move the way that we market and the way that we sell on as well.
So are you saying that that each particular team can effectively run social selling as long as their mindsets change, or do you think there needs to be a change in the structure of organisations of how they actually approach this?
So I'm going to just stop you there because just so you know, I had to do a video for the book, and Tim very kindly sat in front of a video camera and interviewed me for about 50 minutes. So I kind of feel like I'm back sitting in front of that video camera. So social selling and social selling is a change in strategy for an organisation. It's a change of way of working. It's a change program to an organisation, just the same as you would have any other change program. It's not about LinkedIn, it's not about a tool, it's not about whatever the shiny latest streaming or whatever. It is very much about how an organisation uses social in a way to go out and find new prospects or additional people within organisations that you've already sold to. And one of the ways that you can do that is actually by creating your own influence. And if you create your own influence, you actually find that things will come to you. So people talk about having buyer-centric profiles on LinkedIn and that. Buyer-centric profile buys you nothing unless you're getting inbound. So for example, I've had inbound this morning about someone who wants to buy tweets. I've just said no because my tweets aren't for sale, but that you should be getting people coming, and actually if you're setting those things up, there should be enough for people to actually say, I'm intrigued by that, I want to make an inquiry.
Sure.
So
it's the inbound from the community.
Yeah. So you should be looking at inbound. So one of the things that we talk about in the book, which is based on some research that Google did in November 2014, which is all online, which is that there's a view from Google, from all of the different searches, that things changed, and so if you look at UK PLC, most people at board level actually don't understand what's going on. They kind of have probably read an in-flight magazine that there's this Uber and things are being disruptive of that, but they don't really get it. They don't understand what social is. And I talk to a lot of people that still think that social is about taking pictures of your lunch and stuff like that. And if we take the Google research, says that those people have actually delegated in an organisation to a certain set of people. Google say they're between the age of 28 and 35. And the reason why they've actually picked those people is that they see them as being having brought up with social, but also having business acumen. And what we talk about in the book is not about millennials, but it's about change makers. It's about people that in any organisation is willing to make a change. And that social set of people, and it may even go, the research was 2014, so it may even be younger than that now. That set of people lived or have worked in society differently to the way that I did. So if we take school, for example, when I was at school, teachers were, you got your homework and you all lined up in school with your homework. Though a lot of people, certainly at that age, probably could have been actually sending text messages to their teachers. If you didn't know a particular answer in physics or maths, you could have actually texted them. And society has actually got a lot more flatter away from that hierarchy. And those people are used to using social networks to find answers. So classic example happened. The telephone system won't work. The board don't know what to do with it. So what they do is they turn to change makers and say, can you go and find me a telephone system or help me make this work? Traditionally in the past, what happened in sales was you would be ringing up people and saying, do you want to buy a telephone system, do you want to buy a telephone system, and interrupting people. Now what happens is that those change makers go out to their social networks and say, anyone got an idea about how to make a telephone system work? Or you know, and you need to be in a situation, both salespeople and marketeers, that those people are in your network for when they come out and buy, they come out to you, or you're being referred by your community and saying, you really need to talk to Tim about this. And that's what we talk about in the book, about how it's so important to build community and influence. Don't talk about product, it's about
sure. And so, yeah, thanks for that. And so there's a lot of people that want to approach social influencers here, and they probably don't want to pay a lot of money to do so, they want to do it organically.
Yes.
Without attracting a bombardment of sort of inquiries online to you, I mean, how can people get your attention online?
Well, it's an interesting thing because first of all, it's got to be so I had someone contact me today. It's something about telecoms. You know, I really don't know anything about telecoms. It's not my subject area. I do social selling. I decided from the get-go to focus on one particular area. So that's what I'm interested in, and I'm obviously interested in selling my book. But a lot of people come to me and say, hey, you'll get a lot of you'll get amplification about what you do. So, and I kind of think, so you can give me greater amplification than my 147,000 followers. I don't think so. And also, I say in I talk about when I talk about my daily duties. Is the first thing I do in the morning is feed my cat Tiger, and I must get a photo of him trying to read like a piece of paper where it says, you know, like additional amplification or something like that. You know, at the end of the day, we've got to feed the cat. We've got to put food on the table at home. Yeah, and that has an interesting dimension.
So, because you appear on lots of tech influencer lists, and actually I've been with lots of separate clients and say, oh yeah, actually,
you told me this.
I could include Tim Hughes as part of my influencer outreach.
Yeah.
But so you're saying that if they want to, you know, attract your attention on different tech, you know, thought leadership issues on, you know, B2B, for example, would if they posted some interesting content to you, would you pay attention to it? Or
well, I got contacted by one of the big 5 banks saying, can you come and talk to the board? I said, yeah, I'm happy to do that. And then they said, will you talk about how apps will be disruptive? And I said, no, not really. I could sit there and make something up, but I want to stand up in front of that board and talk about social selling, and you go, oh yeah, great, we need to employ you to talk to our sales teams. That's what I want, really. So it's got to be, it's got to be interesting to people. I'm friends with people like Ted Rubin, and Ted's very kindly read my book, and it's got a quote on the back, and I mean, it's a similar sort of thing. And when you talk to influencers, you are talking to a real person with wants and needs, and I'm not just a a plaything that you can corporates can play with and decide whether you raise a purchase order or not. If you want to talk to me, then you need to talk to me. But I'm having a serious conversation, and people need to be kind of serious back.
Sure. No, I think it's interesting how all the different approaches that you've got, but I guess you don't really entertain much of them at all.
I either 8 out of 10 approaches either turn into nothing, where people just waste my time, or I turn them down.
So I guess for everyone in the room, obviously targeting is essential.
Yes, targeting is important.
Has anyone got any questions for Tim?
Just to sort of identify a couple of situations where somebody has been successful in contacting you and influencing you, would you say that you would and I kind of picked up on this a little bit, but would be interested to hear you elaborate, would be more inclined to engage with them if they had some genuine value to offer you first before they ask for something back.
So I was invited to for me, the best influencer event or whatever that I've ever been involved in was where a guy called Thomas Power in the UK basically invited me to a weekend at a hotel in Kingston where there were 29 other social media influencers, and we spent the weekend. He was trying to sell a product, and a lot of it was about the products and that. But the 30 of us bonded as a team, and what that immediately gave me access to was 29 other social media people, and for me that was that was, and certainly for a number of us, it's been a turning point in the way that we work with social media, because immediately I got access to 29 other networks. And we retweet each other, we read each other's articles, we trust each other in terms of you know, Job Hop Julie. I can only remember people by their Twitter handles. Job Hop Julie, you know, she's done crowdsourcing, and I supported her through that. I read her articles. She's a really good writer. She's working for Glassdoor. I retweet them. And I look out for stuff that she's doing. Adam Gray, exactly the same. And even some people that have actually spun out of that. Jay Shetty, who spun out of Accenture, he wasn't part of that, but he kind of formed into the group. He's now doing videos on Huffington Post where he's got, like, I don't know, millions of hits from what he's doing. And that's all part of that network. And I didn't get paid for that, but I got 2 nights in a hotel. But what that gave me was access. That gave me value.
There was intrinsic value.
Yeah.
Would you say the sort of takeout from that is that if somebody's approaching anyone, whether it's you or somebody else, think about how they can value that person rather than asking for something that's...
Yeah, and I give that example because it's not necessarily about monetary value. It's about what, for example, I'm always looking for interesting... if anybody who knows me or follows me, hopefully you know me for someone that posts interesting tweets, because that's kind of what I want to be known for. And I remember going to KPMG, they produced a report, and I said, that's really fantastic, you've got some great tweetable stuff in there. Can you send it to me a couple of days beforehand? We can agree some press embargoes and stuff like that, but I'd be really interested if you produced a similar report and we could actually get that out. They never came back to me. Now, getting something that's a report or some research that you've done with some interesting infographics before anybody else, again, is of intrinsic value to me. And hey, all of a sudden you've got your report out through a network of 147,000 people. Why wouldn't you want to do that?
So it's more the content, it's more access to the network rather than backlinks to your or any payment.
Yeah. So I'm interested in what it's not necessarily payment. It's something that will have value to me, and that value isn't necessarily monetary payment. It's about maybe getting access to a report. So for example, I did a presentation for a media group called the Octopus Group. They've done a piece of research called the Sleepless CMO. And it's an interesting report about how people are buying things right now, and the fact that buying cycles have actually increased, but selling cycles have actually decreased, which kind of confirms what I talk about. So I quite like that. And I've actually turned that into a blog. Now, I think they were quite amazed that I've suddenly gone, and I'm actually going to put that out through my network. But this is really interesting research. It obviously backs up what I say, and I've then actually taken that out. I've done interviews with people. I've got an interview webinar going out at the moment, and they've actually written all the tweets. They've got some really nice tweets that they've written for me. So that's going out through my network as well. Obviously, it's a webinar about me. So, but again, they've taken the time to think about the message, and ultimately, okay, it's a webinar about me, but the people that did the webinar, it's advertising for them as well.
Sure, I think a lot of people are looking at events and co-creating content, getting influencers together, and if they can achieve that, it's obviously really valuable.
Yeah. I mean, co-creating content is I get probably daily a request for, can you answer this question? So I don't really answer them anymore.
But if it was a co-creation with a group of other influencers, then obviously...
Yeah, maybe. I mean, you generally find that the key influencers don't have time to do it either. So you generally get, it's a whole bunch of people going, I don't really know who they are.
Unless you're in one room together, perform the networks and then...
Yeah.
Can be built
Sitting at home answering questions.
Sure. So has anyone else got any questions for Richard?
Yeah, you start off with talking about CEOs not really getting it.
Yes.
Is there an easy fix for that, or do they just have to simply disappear and be replaced by people in the room?
I'm live probably on the internet, so I don't want to put an end to every CEO in. I think it's down to us, and that I can spot change makers in the room. It's down to us to basically influence the CEOs to actually explain to them why the world has changed and why they should actually be on social. They're missing a great opportunity to explain the story of brands and the way that they can interact with people.